Hello and welcome to the She the People. We are here for the She the People's Digital Women's Award and Summit. This is the eighth edition of the initiative, considered the biggest effort for women, or women entrepreneurship in India. This initiative has touched the lives of 100,000 women entrepreneurs. This year, the overreaching theme is Storm the Norm. The awards are focused on talent, entrepreneurship, innovation, and creation by and among women who are building businesses using the internet. Our lead partner for the event is Google. It is co powered by Colors and Axis Bank. Our current panel discussion is titled Women Content Creators New Sales Models. So, hello everyone, I am Bhakti Kotwal and I shall be moderating today's panel discussion with the lovely ladies here. Just a little introduction about myself. I run a digital marketing agency. So I stand here as an entrepreneur myself and also a content creator in the parenting and lifestyle space where I enjoy my time with my kid as a business partner. And with the name Themomflair, have been curating events for kids and parents through my venture, the Momflair Events. I'm so honored to be amongst all of you here today. And let me start by introducing Tanya. Tanya Khubchandani Vatsa is a healthcare entrepreneur and strategist. She runs a successful IV therapy and budding skincare venture called Elixir Wellness. She's also a published author and influencer who shares relatable parenting and lifestyle content under the popular name The Mommy Diaries, which we all know very well. Thank you, Tanya, for being here today.
Thank you, Bhakti, for having me.
So, moving on, I'm going to introduce you to Sonal Agrawal. Sonal is a fashion and lifestyle content creator who has been creating content since the last 8 years since she founded her blog Pink Peppercorn. She is a postgraduate in luxury brand management from Polimoda Institute of Fashion Design and Marketing, Florence, Italy. Before starting Pink Peppercorn, Sonal had been a brand strategist for over 8 years. Her content is mainly inspired by culture, travel, socio-cultural phenomenon, and sustainability. It is original, interesting, and yet very different in terms of the narrative and the visuals. She likes challenging the usual notions of what fashion bloggers are expected to do and be like. She's also the founder of the sustainable clothing brand House of Pink Peppercorn. Thank you, Sonal, for being amongst us today.
Thank you so much, Bhakti.
So, moving on to Shreya, our final panelist today. Shreya Gautam is an entrepreneur and digital creator who runs a jewelry design a business called Earth. Four Tiny Feet is her social media handle where she creates content on parenting and lifestyle and travel, which is raw and real. She speaks about the importance of normalizing mental health awareness through her content. She has also walked the ramp at the Bombay Times Fashion Week and has been seen in digital commercials of brands like SBI Life Insurance. She founded a bloggers community, BMI, in 2019, where she strives for community over competition by getting content creators from different niches all together. Thank you, Shreya, for being here today.
It's an honor to be here, Bhakti. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, moving on to my questions today for these lovely ladies, entrepreneurs, content creators, which we all know have been booming. The women entrepreneurs and content creators have been making great buzz on the social media. So, I would really like to ask and discuss some things that, as content creators or as mom creators, I would love to know from Tanya, Shreya, and Sonal. So let's begin with our questions. So, first of all, the main question I would like to put forward that most of us, the audience, is curious to know is This full-time career of being an influencer, is it a conscious career option or is it happened due to some other circumstances? And what were the reactions of your family members or your closed ones when you chose this as a full-time profession?
So I can start. So basically, for me, it wasn't a conscious decision at all. I've always been full time into healthcare, and when I was on maternity leave with my son, I actually started blogging. This is 8 years ago, 9 years ago now. I started writing the tips and tricks that were helpful to me as a parent on my phone. That eventually became a blog. I made a Facebook page just as a way to get more users onto the blog, and then that grew to Instagram. And what I've written is now a published book. But it was actually not planned at all. It kind of happened because one thing grew into the to another as the popularity of it grew. It kind of evolved. But now, if I were to start over today, I feel like Instagram would have been the first stop because it is a choice that women can now make consciously. Back a decade ago, it wasn't. Now there are brands and there's so much marketing. There's a way to support yourself through it. So it is definitely a very conscious choice that can be made. It is a career option for sure. And as you can see, there's a lot of brand content that goes up, but as you can see, there's a way to professionalize it as well. So I mean, I have a whole team behind me and other people that are also supported through. In fact, today being the first, I end up spending my whole morning on payroll. Giving back to the team, of course, that's behind me. So there's an amazing and professional way to do it, and I know that it comes across, at least from the feedback I get in my work. I've worked with Shreya as well. I know it comes across in her work as well. So definitely, it's a choice that can be made. My family, that being said, didn't take it well. My husband was always supportive, but from day one he was like, "How can you monetize this? How can this go further?" My parents, once I got on Instagram, kept saying, "What is this? You're dancing on reels. You're dancing on this thing." Especially post reels coming in and content becoming shorter and crisper and needing to be more entertaining because that's what worked. Long form videos stopped working a while ago, and post reels, I think my parents were a little shocked. But as they've seen the numbers grow and as they've seen how that even affects my own business positively, I think now they're at a point where they support.
Right. Amazing. So, Sonal, I would like to know from you as well that how did you start this content creation?
So I started creating content about 8 years back, and before which I was in a proper corporate career. I was a marketing professional for about 8 years. But the thing is that I always loved, fashion. I loved being clicked. I loved being in front of the camera. So personally, for me, I actually started with Instagram, but I started more as not with an intention of monetizing it because I didn't even know back then that it could be monetized. So I started with an intention of just creating content, and I started writing. I had a blog where I used to do long copy, and as followers started growing, I started getting calls from brands for endorsements, and that's when I realized that okay, fine, this is something that can turn into uh, like a proper monetizable profession, and I guess that's where I decided to just take it up full time because this is what I enjoyed much more than what I used to do, as a marketer. And this has a lot of marketing to go with it. It's not something that you can. You're a business. You're an entrepreneur at the end of it. When you're a content creator. So unless you're really devoted to giving it full time, I don't think it's something that can uh, grow into a profession for you. It's been 7.5 years that I've been doing it full time, and it's been a great journey. It's been a very long journey, and it's been a lot of fun. So I've always been somebody who used to. I was never really happy with one thing, so I've shifted a lot of careers. I've done a lot of things. I was in PR, I was in advertising, I was in brand strategy, I was in research. But finally, for the last 7.5 years, I've actually found something which I love doing and I want to stick to, and I don't think I want to move out of, which itself is, great for me. In terms of my family's reaction, my parents have been very, very supportive. My dad, I think, even now doesn't fully understand what I do, but but he's very happy, for me to see me doing well. And I mean, it actually helps, when we go out traveling and there are random people who just come and ask me for selfies. So that makes him feel really nice, because he's like, okay, fine, I don't know what she's doing, but she's definitely doing something right.
Hmm.
So yeah, my mom is a great support system, and so it's been great overall.
Nice, nice, amazing. Shreya, how did you start this as a full-time career?
So for me, like Tanya, it happened accidentally. I started using Instagram around 5 years back as a medium to vent. I was a new mom when I delivered the second time. I was a new mom, and I was going through a rough. I had gone through a rough pregnancy and childbirth, so it was a medium for me to vent. At that point, there was no indication or idea about collaborations or events or brand associations. That came in much later, maybe like a year later, that I started getting into brand associations. And for me, the transition was very smooth because I was a stay at home mom. And I have no idea when I went from a stay at home mom to a full time working mom. And today, content creation is my full time career, along with being an entrepreneur. So, yeah, in terms of family, my family has, I didn't really give them a choice. They had to be supportive because this is something I wanted to do. But yes, they've always played along, like my audience has seen. They've always been, participating in all my antics. And my dad is completely off social media. He's not even on Facebook. So he's till date does not understand why brands pay me for recording videos. So that is something, hard to explain to him. But otherwise, it's been a smooth journey, and everyone's been very supportive.
Awesome, awesome. So, how do you gauge or understand your audience to create the content that you have been creating? Because I believe content creation is never constant. So there are too many trends going on. There are too many changes going on, and I mean, no matter what your age is, no matter what your profession is, I mean, what your niche is, you still have to keep changing your content or keep sort of experimenting. So, how do you really gauge your audience, which will be in benefit to your content viewership and also for the brands that you work for? Sonal, can you, I think maybe you could tell us something in relation with the fashion brands that you're working with?
Sure. So personally, I think it's a lot of trial and error. Frankly,
Right,
I mean, I have. If anybody were to look at my content from when I started, it has seen a sea of change. So earlier, I
correct,
used to do a lot of content which was inspired, but it was a lot of editorial content. So I used to do a lot of experimental stuff. I used to do a lot of content which was inspired by mythology, by culture, and I used to literally do the magazine kind of shoots and everything, which used to work well. But what I've realized is that with the whole scene shifting after reels got introduced, and with Instagram wanting to reduce the whole emphasis on photographs, people have sort of become much more demanding in terms of content that is relatable to them. They don't really want the editorial kind of content anymore. They want content which they can relate to, which they can pick up from, which they can actually use in their everyday lives. And I think that's a huge shift. So if you see my content, it's very different. It's more about how do you style an outfit in many ways, how do you drape saris in different ways, how can you it's basically more tips related. It's related to
right.
making a difference in people's lives, and I think that is what the key is. So it's literally about trying to identify different insights in people's life, in your audience lives, and trying to create content around it. Something clicks, something doesn't click. It's really like a trial and error. And when it comes to fashion brands, I think uh, currently right now for me, uh, this kind of a thing where styling videos is really working. and it works for all these fashion brands that I work. But there are certain times, when let's say you've gone way too experimental on a video and it does not end up working. So again, that it's I think there's no formula to it. There's no way of gauging stuff. It's all trial and error. And I think one of the best things to do is to talk to a lot of creators, is to talk to people, is to attend workshops like this panel discussion that we're having. To actually go out, learn, watch videos. YouTube helps a lot because there are people giving amazing tips on YouTube. So I think the more amount of knowledge that you consume, the more amount of stuff that you hear from people and talk to people, it helps you. It helps you evolve your content and it helps you grow and make.
The contents. Correct. Yeah. Thank you. Tanya, how would you gauge your audience or understand and create more content, or keep experimenting with it?
So I would say the best thing that works for me is actually talking to the audience. I've realized that when I do a poll or I do a quiz or I do an ask me anything on stories, that works beautifully. My engagement for the entire week jumps up.
Oh,
And so in light with that, what I would say is actually ask your audience what kind of content they're enjoying. Very often I'll put up 2 reels in my stories and say, do you prefer this or that? There's always a question in my caption that's thrown out of the audience. Very often people don't, if it's a reel or something, I know they won't always read it, but my regular readers do actually comment, or they'll send me a DM, or they tell me what they like. To the point where sometimes I feel it's a little too much. I get a few too many opinions. I'll even get opinions on what I'm wearing and on things that I haven't asked for. But it's part of the process. I do feel, like Sonal said, content over time has evolved to become more relatable, or at least it should have evolved to become more relatable because that's what works. And I realize the longer I spend on a video, the less and the more effort I put into it, the worse my video will perform. Because
that's
it's like the short few second things that are relatable that really do well. It's a reels with a sound that someone will see and be like, oh, this is exactly me. That's the stuff that'll be trending and that'll go viral. I recently shot. Well, I didn't shoot. I was in the mall for an event, and my assistant was with me, and she captured a candid of me and my son just hugging on the escalator, and I put that with a sound that wasn't even trending at the time. It started trending later, and that hit like 6 million views, and I went up like 10,000 followers that week. So it's literally the relatable little things that do well. And a lot of times it's the unscripted content that works really well, and the more candid and raw content that works really well. So at this point, I've moved away a little bit from spending as much time and money on shooting and doing these fancy reels that end up bombing, and then you feel so bad because you put effort into it, and instead catering to content that people can relate to.
right, right. Totally relatable, actually. So, moving on to the next question. How are women content creators breaking barriers on social media and proving to be great marketing assets for the brands? Shreya, do you want to go for that?
Yes, thank you so much. So I think, in my opinion, last 3 years have seen such a drastic shift in terms of marketing. I think since the pandemic, every brand that you see has started discovering and moving towards influencer marketing, which is, I think, a great step for the industry that we work in.
Correct.
So I feel like it is a way for brands to connect to mass audience and to actually use the creator to reach out to the organic audience and the audience that relates to their work. So this is something that I've been seeing the last 3 years, and I'm sure it's gonna go to greater heights in the coming years. I mean, the very fact that there were ASCI guidelines issued just goes to show that this field is actually being recognized as a profession. So it's
True.
not just limited to a hobby anymore. You are actually calling yourself a professional when you say that you're a content creator or an influencer. So that's, I think, something great, and brands are really benefiting from it. From what I can also gauge as a community head, where we also work with brands on campaigns, they've been drastically benefiting from this industry.
True, and even the especially the women content creators. So they are
Definitely, definitely.
right. So Tanya, I think maybe a lot of moms connect with you or from this community where they want the audience to hear them, to know what they're doing, to know what moms are not just stay at home moms. They're actually doing or creating content to make some sense, to give some value to what they're doing. So what do you have to say about that? That how are they breaking the barriers?
So I honestly feel like the reason I started writing and started blogging was so that moms know that they're not alone. I feel like being a new parent can be really isolating. When I had my son, I was in the US. And literally I didn't have any friends who had kids. Most of my friends were barely married, and I felt really alone. I felt like there was so much advice that just wasn't given to me, and the big things. Yes, everyone says sleep when the baby sleeps, and all these stupid points that are really not useful, but the actual useful advice no one really gives you, you know. So that's why I started blogging. And what I love now is that there are so many people out there sharing their journey. Yes, a lot of them are filtered and made to look a little glossier, but there are a lot of women putting out raw content that makes you feel like there's a community of moms that have your back and that has your support. And I feel that's a phenomenal thing that's come out through Instagram. I mean, I get so many women who reach out to me and be like, this is exactly what I was feeling. Thank you for sharing it. Whether it's about like being an introvert or wanting to be left alone or being exhausted at the end of the day, Instagram gives you that community, and social media, not just Instagram. I mean, that LinkedIn is now doing a creator page. Facebook has had it for a while. Twitter is out there as well, especially every time Instagram is down. So there's lots of ways for moms to relate and to connect, and I feel like it's an amazing evolution that has come across. And I want to actually add something to Shreya's earlier point as well. She's definitely the right person to ask about brand content because she's run BMI Bloggers Meet Info so successfully. But as an entrepreneur, I have a perspective on that as well, and I can see how beautifully digital marketing, influencer marketing rather, works from a startup perspective. Because I started, I've been in the healthcare space for a while, but I started Elixir, which is a startup within the last year, and my only way of marketing has been influencer marketing,
Influencer.
and it's working beautifully.
Amazing. Great, great. So, moving on to another session. Sonal, what do you think you had to do differently to be noticed or mark your impression in this very growing and very competitive field? Especially fashion is something I feel every day. I mean, in all the niches, every day there's a new influencer coming up. So everybody considers them as an influencer today. So, having said that, obviously there are so many people that are already being recognized on a bigger platform, on a in all the communities. But what do you do differently to be noticed? Because already there are so many and so much happening in that space.
So personally, I think the key is to be original, to create content that you love creating, to show things and do things that you love doing with your own unique flair. And obviously to find that key where you can relate to people. Relatability, I think, is the main difference. So you put your own unique voice to it, and you find that sweet spot where people can relate to it. I think that is what you need to do. If there are so many people, like literally there are everybody you meet nowadays is a content creator.
Yeah,
Everyone is creating content for Instagram, but the thing is to not be another me too. So I believe that you shouldn't just be another me too. So like for example, I follow a lot of content creators because they're my friends, but I actually try and not spend hours on watching other people's fashion reels, because somewhere I don't want to end up copying, or I don't want to end up getting too inspired by them, because then I become another me too and I lose my originality, which I don't want to. So I think that keeping yourself original, staying inspired by things which are other than other people's reels, is what is most important.
true.
And
Right.
also wanted to add another point to your earlier question, which was about breaking barriers. I feel,
Yes.
especially for women today, what this entire industry has done is, number one, when you're putting yourself out there and putting yourself out there so boldly, you're breaking your own inner barriers. That is the first step to it. Not
Right.
everyone can do it, and that is not something that people did, for so many years. This is something which is very new, which has actually happened post pandemic. So I would really credit the pandemic for making this such a mass phenomenon, that everyone these days is accepting themselves the way they are. They're shedding their inner inhibitions and they're putting themselves out there. That itself is a big barrier breakage, if you would ask me. And the other thing, and why influencer marketing really works, is because when you look at a celebrity on TV, all these years we've seen celebrities on TV, okay, and we've always said that, "Ha, theek hai, she's wearing a bikini, it's fine, it's her profession. She's using XYZ products, it's fine, it's her profession." But when you see a real person, and content creators are real people, and when you see them, go out there, wear bold clothes, party and drinking and wearing a bikini, it actually breaks barriers in people's minds in terms of mother-in-laws becoming a lot more accepting, society in general becoming a lot more accepting of, women doing things which were earlier considered taboo. So I think in terms of breaking barriers, because you are real people, because we are real people, and we are putting ourselves out there the way we are, I think that is what is also really helping break barriers. And I think that's why influencer marketing even works more than celebrity marketing and endorsements, because it actually makes people feel that, okay, fine, she can do it, I can do it.
True. Right. Yeah. Perfectly put there. So, moving on to the next question, is coming to the main important thing, which I feel our audience is also very keen to know about, is the collaborations. So when we talk about collab, so because everybody have that thing in their mind, how do you even monetize this profession? How much are you paid, or what? I mean, everybody wants to know kitna mila, kya kiya. So this is a very common question in terms of our audience. Also, each influencer wants to know how much the other influencer is making in their fields. So this is something very much talked about and also very much shushed about. So I just want to ask you, all of you, like how important, or how, as we know, like are collaborations a part of this career? What do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of the same? Because as you said, Sonal, we are real people. People want to hear real things from us. They want to know the genuine reviews, feedbacks about certain products or services. But then when we are paid for, people think it might not be as true. So what do you want to talk about that? Shreya, you want to let talk about this first?
Yes, I would love to. I think this is a very vast topic when it comes to
True.
collaborations. I mean, there are so many aspects to be covered, but a couple of things that I want to shed light on is I think let's not make the idea is not to make your page look like a Google search, like an ad page, because that's when your audience is going to lose trust. Like I see Tanya's page today. If she's putting out one branded reel, after that she's or before that after that she's putting out at least 2 to 3 organic reels that her audience can connect to. And I think that is the best way to go about it. When it comes to being paid, I don't think there is a secret to it. I think uh, if today someone has to come and ask me how much you got paid for this, I would be open about it. I don't feel the need to hide it or cover it up, because I think it just helps the other person, establish a benchmark for themselves, which is very important when we see a lot of content creators settling for peanuts. So when you discuss it, I'm not saying that go and announce it on social media, but yes, if you're having a one-on-one conversation and the topic comes up, I honestly feel it's fine to discuss it, because it helps the up and coming creators, recognize what their value is, how much they should be charging the brands. So setting that benchmark, is very important.
True, very true. I mean, that actually helps the community to grow together. Right? It's not a competition. Stanya, what do you have to say about this?
So I have to say, I definitely share my rates. And I'm not saying that to scare any brands out there, but the reality is that very often a brand will come and offer me something, will go to someone else and be like, oh, she's doing it for so little
Or like
and you're
that.
charging so much. It happens the other way as well. So I have and many times picked up the phone and called the person, because at this point the community is pretty tight, and been like, what are you actually quoting, because this is what the brand is saying. And there are lots of brands and PR agencies that play these kind of games, unfortunately, to get their own costs down. So I have definitely discussed my rates with other content creators. I know I would not publicize them on social media, but I would, on a one-on-one conversation, share that, because I feel it's important to support each other. And I do feel like very often we undermine what we're worth. So I am someone who didn't charge a thing, and I would say I'm sort of grandfathered in on the platform at this point. But I didn't charge a thing until I hit 20,000 followers. Until date, I have never reached out to a brand for a collab. Whatever has come, are brands reaching out to me. That being said, even this morning, there was an event that I was supposed to do, and I spoke to my manager and I said, "What happened with that?" And this, she was like, "They're not coming up to your rates." And I was like, "Then I'm just not gonna do it," because I reached a point where I feel like I don't want to settle for less, and I know what I'm worth, and I know what my time is worth, my presence is worth, and the effort is worth more than that. There's an opportunity cost for everyone's time at this point. And I will not settle for less. And I feel like that's something that's really important for people to know. And when you share it as a community and discuss it, they also realize their own worth.
True. But do you think doing collaborations and having the paid ads on your page comes to any sort of disadvantage when it comes to your followers or audience?
So I feel like I'm someone who doesn't take too many collaborations. I'm very picky about the brands that I work with, and I will try everything before I actually endorse it. I know not everyone does the same thing, but for me, my collabs are very few, and a lot of my audience is aware about this. I definitely get comments from them saying, "Is this a genuine thing? Is it an ad?" So they do ask, and they also know at this point that I don't endorse like every second thing. So I feel like that comes across, at least for me, to people who are following me regularly. If you're new to my page, you wouldn't know that, but I don't do so many ads and collabs, and I feel like because of that, and because I put out way more organic content than I do paid content, that comes across.
Right, right. Sonal, what do you think about this? Because I believe in the fashion niche, there are so many brands that wants to work with you, but usually on barter because they have so many other options. Because it's always like, okay, if not this, the other influencer would do it for free or for barter or for the less amount. And since there is so much competition, influencers also come under pressure and take up such collaborations. So, what happens in your space?
So frankly, personally, I feel that, like you said, fashion brands do come up with a lot of barters, and especially if it's a startup or if it's a designer or if it's somebody who's like a woman entrepreneur. So particularly when it comes to women entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are doing sustainability, I personally am somebody who uh, I don't mind helping. I mean, if I have the influence and if I have the kind of following and if I have the platform, why not support somebody who's starting out? I mean, I am not somebody who goes around demanding money from somebody who's like a weaver or who's somebody who's just starting out doing sustainable fashion. So as a policy, I take up 2 to 3 brands every month, which I do pro bono, just as a support to the industry. Apart from that, obviously, if it's a brand like, if it's an established brand, so if it's an Amazon or a Myntra or a Nika Fashion or anybody who's big enough who can pay me, I know what my worth is, and I would not go ahead and do barter work. So barters are literally a choice that, whether I want to do it or I don't want to do it, it's completely on me. But for budding creators, I would say that, when you're in the starting of your career, you have to really pick and choose what works for you, what's going to help you, what's not going to help you. For example, if today a Louis Vuitton were to come to me and say, okay, do a barter, I would say yes. I mean, why not? Because it's going to add that value to my brand as well, right? It's going to be good for me. Similarly, if for somebody who's a young creator, if there's a Nike or a Reebok who wants to do a barter with them, I mean, why not? Because it's going to add value to you. And tomorrow you do a barter with a Reebok. Other brands don't know you've done a barter. So they are going to come up and they're going to offer you payment. So it's a process. I don't think it's something that, you need to be picky about what you want to do in a barter and what you don't want to do in a barter. What that collaboration is going to give you in terms of value, whether it's going to give you monetary value, whether it's going to give you, value in terms of building your image, or whether it's going to give you value in terms of getting you more work from somewhere else. So you have to
Right.
see if there is any kind of value that it's adding to you, then why not?
So this is
And
absolutely subjective to the
it's
influencers.
very subjective. It's very
Yeah.
subjective. You have to evaluate each case depending on what's coming to you. And
Right.
definitely, where you know that the brand has budgets, and where you know that you can charge, then there you shouldn't really compromise on your charges, because, like Tanya said and Shreya said, that there are brands who come to you and say that, oh, this one's doing it for that much, but you know what your work is worth. So I personally always tell them that, listen, if you want to do it with them, might as well go do it with them. Then why are you even talking to me? You're talking to me for a reason, because you want me for it. And this is how much I
Right.
charge. And mostly, like in 99% of the cases, they have come back to me and have worked with me at my cost. So it's about putting your foot down, because if you just feel कि अरे collaboration चला जाएगा कर लेते हैं, तो फिर तो you will keep doing that. Then it's a cycle that you keep following.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you. So, moving on from collaborations to community, how important do you think it is to form and grow a community? Like, I understand there are so many followers. Influencers are usually behind the idea of increasing the followers and increasing their engagement. But what about the community? Do we feel that it's very important to have a community who will organically engage anyway? So, do you think that we have formed or we should be forming as an influencer? Is that very important, or just plain followers who come and go are okay? Shreya, you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, so when it comes to community, I think there are two types of communities that I have. I'm going to talk only about myself. One is my Insta community, where I have my followers who keep guiding me, keep telling me what they want to see on the page. The support comes in, and that's what drives you to create more and more content. There's another community that we have in terms of influencers, where we come out and we support each other, we discuss problems, we bridge the gap between each other, so that a third party cannot take advantage of that. So I think whether it is the influencer community or your follower community, my only the only saying that I go by is that the only way to grow is to grow together. That is the only way you can go ahead, because you cannot be a solo army over here and feel that everyone's going to support you and everyone's going to stand by you, whether it is influencers or your online community. So that's my take on it.
So, what about you, Tanya? What do you think about growing the community, or is it just your niche you want to grow the community within, or you want to extend it? And how do you think the community supports you as a content creator?
So I actually feel it's really important. It's something that I realized is more important, a lot more important than the numbers. I feel like the number of followers is secondary. The more important thing is the number of people who actually would engage with you and who keep up with you regularly and who are genuinely vested. That's a lot more important than your total follower count. For a number of reasons. One, of course, is for brands, for conversion. The second is to actually build that community with people who trust you, and also brands have switched to events over the last few months, so having people who actually show up for you and support you physically as well is also important. And then
Right.
also from a brand perspective, I see that the people with the fewer followers but who have taken time to go through that list without the people they don't want on it, and their numbers may look small, they actually have a lot higher conversion. So I feel like that's really, really important to keep in mind, even for brands. Someone with 1 million followers versus someone with 100,000 or 200,000, the 100 and 200,000 will get you a lot more conversion than the 1 million followers with, because when you're at that larger number, you're not as able to respond to everyone, and to take care of your page and your community as you would if you had fewer. So I feel that's something that's really important. And like Shreya said, the influencer community itself supports each other a lot. So that's absolutely crucial to being in this space.
Exactly. Yes. So true. So, Sonal, I'm just going to twist this question a bit for you. So, the same question with a point that I would like to know is that are your followers or the community that you have are as loyal? I wouldn't say the word loyal in a way, but are they so true to you that they engage organically, or do you actually have to make a lot of effort to create the community because fashion is so subjective and fashion is so all ever changing? So, what do you want to say about that?
It is subjective, it's ever changing, and it's very, very open to criticism.
True.
So, personally, I think yes, the effort that I have to put in is a lot more in terms of being very interactive. Doing a lot of Q and A's and everything. But what I have realized is that if a video really, or if a piece of content really connects with people, then people do engage and they do interact. So I think at the end of it, it all comes to how well you relate to the audience with that particular piece of content. Another thing is that yes, there are a certain set of people who I see always interact with my posts irrespective of what. So I think that is the real community that I have built, and which I'm very happy about. But definitely, like you said, so you know, personally, I feel like I have a lot of friends who are moms and who are mom creators, and I feel that for them it is far more. They have a far more loyal following. They have a far more tighter community, and I feel it's easier for them to build a community because the content somewhere is such that they can relate to people at a very emotional level. And when you're relating to somebody at an emotional level, connecting with somebody at an emotional level, the bonds are tighter. When it comes to fashion, it is something which is so. Personally, I don't think of it as superficial, but people consider it as superficial and very visual only. And so, being your true self is at least in your stories, in the way you do your lives, in your Q and A's, that becomes very important. So it's very important for me as a fashion creator to draw that line between what is uh, content and what is actually me and putting myself out there.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So
with the
that
sustainable fashion that you have, that you've chosen to support and also have your own brand, does that give you a separate community of your
it
own?
does. It does. That does give me an edge, and definitely people. I mean, I can actually gauge within my community that there are these people who are here for my sustainable content, who are here to support that sustainability. So I can actually make that difference between the two kind of audiences that I have.
Great, great. Because so that's working for you, and I think that is somehow the need of the hour for the fashion industry to evolve into sustainability as well.
Absolutely.
Right. So, ladies, moving on to the last question, I would like to ask each one of you to sum up all of your experiences, your journey, and what would be that one suggestion or a message to someone who is starting their journey or a career as a content creator in this already stagnant field. So, I believe there are too many influencers or content creators in each niche. So, what would your suggestion or message for the new creators would be? So, let's start from Tanya.
So I would say the most important thing is to remember that it's community over competition. Don't try to undercut people. Focus on your own work. Focus on being authentic and true to yourself. And don't worry about what anyone else is saying or doing. I also think that it's important to develop thick skin. Because no matter what you're doing, there is going to be someone who disagrees with it or trolls you or says something different. But as long as you know what you're doing is right to you and that you're being true to yourself, the rest of it is just noise.
Great, right. Very true. And I think each new content creators are very overwhelmed with the numbers and things happening around. Right. Shreya, what do you want to say about this? I mean, what would your suggestion be?
I think being yourself is something that is very important. If you try to fake it, if you try to imitate someone else, your audience is going to know eventually and they're not going to relate to your content. So be true to yourself, be true to do what you like to do what makes you happy. Because if you're happy creating it, it is going to, come onto the screen and your audience is going to relate to it. And also, please, please, please do not try to take shortcuts. I know it's very tempting seeing others hit a certain number, but don't fall for it, because they've hit a certain number and they respect their work, because it gives that experience is what makes them respect their numbers. So if you try to skip that step, if you try to take a shortcut, go from 10,000 to 50,000 overnight, you're not going to behave like like an influencer or a creator who's at 50,000 followers, because you don't know the hard work and the struggles that have gone into reaching that number. So no matter how tempting it is, please, please don't fall for those shortcuts.
Yeah, so don't skip the steps, basically. Yeah, thank you for that. And yes, Sonal, what would your suggestion be for the new creators?
So personally, I feel that for anyone who's getting into content creation now at this point, it's actually great because Instagram has opened up its algorithm. It's made it a lot more flexible, and Reels is a platform which actually can, take you to a different height very fast. So I have seen creators who just started like 2 months back, and they've ended up making content which is very relatable, and then their reel has gone viral, and they're now sitting at like 50,000 followers within a span of a week. And I think that's great. That's not something that was there when I started out. There was a lot of struggle, there was a lot of hard work. Having said that, I think what you need to, or what new creators need to keep in mind is, one, they have to identify their niche. You can't just be another me too. You can't be another copy of somebody else. So find your niche, find your originality, make content that you love, that you like, that you would want to watch, and I'm sure there are people who are going to respond accordingly. And I think one of the biggest things is that don't start with the mindset that I want to collaborate with brands, I want to make money out of it. Start for the joy of it. Do your stuff, make your content because you enjoy it, and not with the intention of I want to get paid by this brand or I want to do this particular collaboration. No, that will come. It'll all come in time. The thing is to just do what you love doing and to grow your audience and to build your community first. I think that is when brands will start coming to you. Another great thing that's happening for the community today and for the younger creators who are coming in now is that creator collaborations is a big thing. So I think people should collaborate with each other, collaborate with other creators, and work as a team. You don't have to fly solo, because flying solo will only get you to a certain extent. Form teams, create content in teams, do collaboration with other creators. I think that is where the future is, and that is going to help you grow. And yeah, I think that's all I would like to say. It's a great platform. It's a great
Right.
space. It's a great platform, and it's something that you need to enjoy. That's basically.
True, very true. Thank you, Sonal, for your answer. So, basically, the whole point and our effort towards highlighting the women in this industry and how they're breaking barriers and how they are the new sales models. So, in a way, that how they actually help brands and help the audience um, understand content creation is all about, and what women entrepreneurs, women creators are doing in this field. So I am so proud and so honored to have all of you here on this panel today. And each one of your insights were wonderful, your experiences and your journey has been so wonderful in your own way, in your own niche. So thank you all for joining today and putting light on the women entrepreneurs and women content creators in this field, because internet is the future and definitely women are too. So I'm so sure that through this panel discussion, more and more women are going to be more confident to come forward and come in this field with your tips, with your suggestions, and all the discussions that we had today. And I also thank She the People to give us such a great platform for all of us to discuss this, come forward and highlight what was always needed to be. So thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Sonal. And thank you, Shreya, so much for being here today with me and She the People.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and I'm glad we could put some valuable points out there.
Thank you so much, Bhakti, and thank you so much, Shreya. This was a great discussion, and it's really nice sharing the platform with such amazing people.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhakti, for leading this. This was lovely, and I mean, I learned a lot as well. And thank